Okay, so get this. Scientists are finding they can like predict what thousands of people will choose just by looking at a handful of brains.
Really?
Yeah, it isn't some sci-fi movie we're talking about,
Right.
neuroforecasting. And you actually sent in a fascinating article from Neuroscience News about it.
Oh, cool.
It breaks down a new study from PNAS Nexus.
Yeah.
And it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it really is pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
This study's findings revolve around how our brains react to things on like a very primal level.
So let's dive into this neuroforecasting thing. You've got to break it down for me. What is it exactly?
Well, it's essentially using brain activity data to predict what larger groups of people will do.
Okay.
We're talking about potentially tapping into those initial gut reactions and using them to understand group behavior.
So like peeking into a few brains to know what a whole crowd might do.
Exactly. And in this study, they zeroed in on a specific brain region,
Okay.
the Nucleus Accumbens.
Nucleus Accumbens. NAcc. Oh, I mean, no, why is that particular part of the brain so important in all this?
Think of the NAcc as the brain's reward center. It's heavily involved in processing pleasure and those good feelings we get.
Right.
So when we see something we like, something we want,
Yeah.
or anticipate something good happening, the NAcc lights up.
Okay. I'm following so far. But how did they actually test this whole neuroforecasting thing?
Right.
Did they like strap people to a lie detector or something?
Not quite, but they did use brain imaging.
Okay.
They had participants look at Kickstarter pitches
Interesting.
and YouTube videos while inside an fMRI machine, which is a fancy brain scanner.
Okay.
They asked people to decide whether they'd fund a project or keep watching a video while they measured their brain activity.
Interesting. But how do you go from a handful of people in a brain scanner to predicting what thousands will do?
Yeah.
That feels like a big leap.
Right, that's where it gets really interesting. The researchers compared the NAcc activity from those participants to the actual choices.
Oh.
A huge group of people online made when they saw the same content.
Okay.
And what they found was pretty mind-blowing.
Okay, we've got to spill the beans. What did they find?
The NAcc activity of that small group in the scanner actually predicted the choices of the much larger online group.
Hold on. Are you saying they could accurately guess what thousands of people would choose just by looking at the brain activity of a small group?
Exactly.
Wow.
And here's the kicker. It worked, even when their demographics were completely different.
Oh, wow.
It suggests that these initial gut-level reactions are remarkably similar across people.
So what you're saying is that we all have this shared, almost primal response to things.
In a way, yes. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective.
Right.
Quickly recognizing threats or rewards was crucial for survival.
Right.
These deeply rooted, almost instinctual reactions are processed by the NAcc.
Okay.
And they seem to be a powerful predictor of broader group behavior.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But I have a question. We don't always go with our gut, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we think things through and make decisions that go against those initial feelings.
Sure.
How does that fit into all of this?
That's where the complexity of our brains really comes in.
Okay.
The researchers believe that those later decision-making stages where we deliberate and weigh options vary much more between individuals.
Okay.
Our experiences, beliefs, values, all these things come into play and make those later decisions unique.
So our initial gut reaction is like this common thread running through all of us while our final choices get tangled up with our own personal baggage.
That's a great way to put it. And because those later stages are so individualistic, they're much harder to predict on a large scale.
Yeah.
Neuroforecasting, at least for now, is really tapping into that shared primal part of our brains, the part that reacts instinctively before all the other mental machinery kicks in.
This is blowing my mind. It makes you wonder, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
What else could this be used to predict?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
It feels like we've just opened a door to something huge.
Absolutely. We've uncovered a potential method for understanding and predicting human behavior in a whole new way.
Yeah.
It's both exciting and a bit daunting.
And I bet there are a ton of possible applications for this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking everything from marketing to politics.
You're already thinking like a neuroforecaster, and that's exactly what we'll be diving into next.
Okay.
We'll explore the real-world applications of neuroforecasting and what this could mean for the future.
All right.
It's a wild ride, so buckle up.
Our listeners, hang tight. We're going to take a quick break and then jump right back into the fascinating world of neuroforecasting. Don't go anywhere.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back and ready to dive into some potential applications for neuroforecasting. I got to admit, my brain is still buzzing from that last segment.
Yeah, it's truly groundbreaking stuff. And as you pointed out, the potential applications are vast.
Okay, so where do we even begin? I'm thinking about things like marketing, where companies are always trying to figure out what consumers want.
You're right on the money. Imagine being able to test the effectiveness of an ad campaign before it even launches just by measuring people's brain activity.
Whoa.
Companies could tailor their messages, imagery, even the music they use to trigger those deep-seated responses in their target audiences.
So they could practically guarantee that people will love their product.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly powerful. And
Yeah.
maybe a little scary, too.
It's a double-edged sword for sure. We have to consider the potential downsides, especially when it comes to things like
Right.
free will and autonomy. Do we want companies to have this kind of power over our choices? It's a big question.
It feels like we're wading into some pretty deep ethical waters here.
Hmm.
But what about other fields? Could neuroforecasting be used for something like, I don't know, healthcare?
Absolutely. Think about personalized medicine, for example. What if we could predict which patients are most likely to respond to certain treatments just by looking at their brain activity?
That would be a total game changer. No more trial and error with medications, just targeted treatments from the get-go.
Exactly. It could lead to more effective treatment plans, faster recovery times, and better outcomes for patients overall.
And what about mental health? Could we use neuroforecasting to help people who are struggling with things like depression or anxiety?
That's a really promising area of research right now. Imagine being able to identify individuals who might be at risk for developing mental health issues before symptoms even emerge, or being able to tailor interventions to an individual's specific needs based on their brain activity.
Wow, that would be a huge step forward in addressing the mental health crisis.
Yeah.
It feels like we're talking about predicting the future of healthcare.
In a way, neuroforecasting could revolutionize how we approach health and well-being, both physically and mentally.
Okay, so we've talked about marketing and healthcare. What about, and I know this one might be controversial, but what about using neuroforecasting in something like law enforcement?
It's definitely a hot button issue, and for good reason. The potential applications are there. Think lie detection or assessing the risk of reoffending, but we need to be incredibly cautious.
Yeah, those feel like situations where accuracy is absolutely critical.
Exactly, and right now, the accuracy of neuroforecasting technology is still being debated. Plus, there are major ethical concerns about using it to determine someone's guilt or innocence or to predict their future behavior. We don't want to create a system where people are judged based on what a machine thinks they might do.
It's starting to sound like that movie Minority Report, where people are arrested before they even commit a crime.
It's a slippery slope, that's for sure. We need to make sure we're not letting technology outpace our ethical considerations. Human rights and individual freedoms need to be at the forefront of any conversations about using neuroforecasting in the criminal justice system.
It feels like this technology has the potential to do so much good, but it could also be misused in some pretty scary ways.
That's the reality of any powerful new technology. We need to be asking these tough questions now. While we're still in the early stages, what are the boundaries? What are the safeguards we need to put in place? These are conversations we need to be having as a society.
Well, on that note, I think we need to take a quick break. Listeners, stick with us. We're going to be back in a flash to continue this deep dive into the world of neuroforecasting and explore even more potential applications, and ethical considerations don't go anywhere. We're back, and I'm still processing all those potential applications for neuroforecasting. It's a lot to take in.
It is, and we've only just scratched the surface. There are so many avenues to explore, each with its own set of promises and challenges.
All right, let's keep going. What other fields could be impacted by this technology?
Well, we talked about how it could personalize medicine, but what if we zoom out a bit?
Okay.
Imagine using neuroforecasting to help create more effective public health campaigns.
Okay.
We could tailor messages about things like healthy eating or vaccinations
Right.
in a way that resonates with people on a deeper level.
That could be huge.
Right.
Especially when it comes to tackling things like vaccine hesitancy.
Right.
If we could understand the underlying anxieties and tailor messages to address them directly,
Exactly.
it could make a real difference.
It's about moving beyond just presenting facts and figures and connecting with people on an emotional level. Neuroforecasting could give us the tools to do that more effectively.
It makes you wonder what else we could apply it to. What about something like urban planning or architecture?
Wow.
Could we design spaces that promote well-being or maybe even reduce crime?
Those are fantastic questions. And honestly, we're just starting to explore those possibilities. Imagine using neuroforecasting to understand how people respond to different urban environments.
Wow.
We could design cities that are not only functional, but also promote mental and emotional well-being.
It's like designing cities that make people happy. I
All
love
that.
that idea.
And it's not just about individual happiness. Think about how this could be used to inform policy decisions. Imagine using neuroforecasting to gauge public sentiment on issues like climate change or social justice reforms. We could actually get a better understanding of how policies might impact people's lives before they're implemented.
So instead of making decisions based on polls or surveys, we could get a more accurate read on how people actually feel.
Exactly. It's about tapping into those underlying emotional responses that might not always show up in traditional data gathering methods.
It feels like neuroforecasting is giving us a whole new lens through which to view human behavior. It's both exciting and a little unsettling knowing we have this ability to peer into people's minds, even if it's just a glimpse.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's a powerful tool, and with that power comes immense responsibility as we move forward with this technology. We need to keep those ethical considerations front and center.
Absolutely. We need to make sure we're using it for good, not to exploit or manipulate people. It feels like we're standing at the edge of something truly revolutionary, but we need to proceed with caution and wisdom.
Well said. This is uncharted territory, and the choices we make now will shape the future of neuroforecasting and its impact on society. It's up to all of us to stay informed, engage in these important conversations, and ensure that this technology is used ethically and responsibly.
So listeners, as we wrap up our deep dive into neuroforecasting, I want to leave you with this. Keep those brains buzzing. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and be active participants in shaping the future of this powerful new technology. Who knows what incredible discoveries and advancements await us.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring and keep diving deep.